Will buying this wheel cut your lap times in half? Do the pedal shifters sound like wooden beams smacking your eardrums? Subscribe and stay tuned to find out. Hey guys, C-Tiger here, and this is my review of the Thrustmaster T248. I bought this with my own money. I'm not affiliated with Thrustmaster in any way, so you're getting a completely honest review. And yeah, let's get into it. I'll also leave an Amazon link below if you guys decide you want to pick one up. All right, so the first pro that I have for this wheel is that it is very precise. I was getting pretty good lap times right away out of the box. The wheel feels really good. The pedals feel really good. I just feel like the response feels just very crisp and just really solid overall. The next pro I have is that the wheel looks a lot better in person. When I first saw it online, I thought it looked kind of cheap and toy-like, but taking it out of the box and setting it up and seeing it here, it actually looks really good. The styling, everything actually looks a lot better in person. So don't be too concerned if that's something that's throwing you off, because yeah, once you get it set up, it actually looks pretty good. All right, so the next pro I have is that there's a lot of customizable buttons on this wheel. It's really helpful, so you can set up your viewing angles while you're racing, changing settings, flashing your headlights, anything you need to do like that. There's lots of buttons to customize. For example, I will also be posting a review of the T300, and that has less buttons that you can use during games. So having all these extra buttons here is super helpful. All right, so the next pro I have is the LCD display is actually very helpful. It's really helpful for navigating the settings in the wheel itself. And during game, it's kind of, it's iffy about how helpful it really is. But one thing that is helpful is the shift indicator. So when you see the bar grow and it flashes to let you know to shift gears, it's really nice to have on this wheel, and I would rather have it than not have it. Another thing I use the LCD display a lot for is the rotation settings on the wheel. So, usually games default to like 900 degrees. Sometimes it's nice to take it down to like 540. And it's really easy to do within the menu here. All right, so the next pro I have for the wheel is actually the pedals. The pedals feel really good right out of the box. If you mount them, if you have a rig that you can mount them to, I'm sure they feel amazing. And they come with a stiffer spring also that I would recommend if you're mounting it. And if you're not mounting it and you're playing with the pedals on the floor, I definitely recommend that you just keep the default spring in there. And it still might even feel a little bit too strong, so I recommend taking the rubber stopper out. And it should feel a lot better if you're playing with the pedals on the floor like I am here. All right, and the last pro I have is controversial, and that is the paddle shifters. I actually think the paddle shifters feel very good overall. They feel very precise. They feel like they give you a lot of feedback. Supposedly they're magnetic versus like a mechanical click. But yeah, I actually really like the way they feel. But that also leads us to our first con, which is they are way too loud. If you're playing the game, it doesn't matter too much because you're just in the midst of the action and everything, but for other people around you, it can definitely drive them crazy. It's a little bit too loud. Kind of seems like what's happening is that sound is kind of resonating inside of the wheel plastic itself. I think maybe if they wrap this in leather, it would be a lot less muted and the wheel would feel a little bit better too. There's leather on the outside, but if they wrapped the whole wheel in leather, I think it would actually mute some of the paddle shifter sound. All right, so my next con is that I feel like while the base is nice and compact, I think it's a little bit too small, or the clamp below it's a little bit too small. Because when I'm playing the game, I do feel it rock back and forth a little bit. It's subtle, but it is pretty annoying when you're trying to play the game and you kind of feel the wheel shake back and forth. And guys, I try to mount it really well. I tried a few different positions and everything. And yeah, it just kept rocking back and forth just a little bit. It wouldn't be a game killer for me, but it's definitely just something to be aware of if there's some way that you can mount it a little bit more securely. All right, so my next con is that the plastic on the inside here feels very cheap. They probably should have just wrapped the whole wheel in leather and it would have solved a lot of those issues, maybe even some of the sound issues. All right, and then again, as I mentioned earlier, the brakes are a little bit too strong if you're playing on the floor, but again, the solution is just to take the rubber stopper out, and it's really easy. You just press the spring up, it pops right out, take a little white rubber stopper off that it comes with, and it should feel a lot better playing with the pedals on the floor. All right, so the last con I have is that it feels very notchy, and it's kind of weird because I loaded up Gran Turismo Sport first, and it felt very notchy and it was a little bit off-putting, but then I started getting used to it and getting really good lap times. But then I loaded Dirt 5, which has native support for this wheel, and it actually felt extremely smooth. So it was kind of confusing. It's probably just a driver issue. Maybe they can add support for GT Sport, and I'm guessing that it's definitely going to have support for GT7. Yeah, but just something to be aware of is that if the game doesn't have support, it might feel a little bit notchy. And for the games that do have support for the wheel, it's feeling really smooth. It feels like the T300, which I will also post a review for. Yeah, so again, without support, it feels a bit notchy. With support, it's feeling really good. All right, so some of my final thoughts. I do feel like this is a great package as a one wheel setup. If you just want one wheel for a bunch of different games, I definitely think this is a great solution for that. The precision that I mentioned earlier, really awesome. Again, getting great lap times right out of the box, and I can only imagine with practice, those lap times getting even better. I do think the price is pretty fair overall, but if you can find a sell price, yeah, go for it. And my last thought is that I think if you can find a leather wrap for the wheel, it would be awesome, because I think it might even meet the paddle shifters a little bit. It'll mask the cheap filling plastic here. And yeah, maybe Thrustmaster might even want to develop a leather wrap, like an official leather wrap for the wheel. I think it would help this a lot. All right, guys, so I hope that review was helpful. I have more gaming and racing videos coming up, including a review for the T300 RS GT. So subscribe if you want to check that out. And yeah, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. I'm trying to reach my first 1,000 subscribers, so your guys' support is super appreciated. All right, thanks for watching.